Yo, what is going on, everybody? So today we're watching the world basically say, nah, we're good to American tourism, and MAGA voters are absolutely losing it over it. Like the whole planet is boycotting trips to the US, and instead of looking in the mirror, these folks are blaming everybody except the guy they voted for. We're talking billions of dollars vanishing, jobs disappearing, hotels sitting empty, and the people who caused this mess are somehow shocked that actions have consequences. This one's gonna be wild. So welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's get into it.
You guys know we are set to lose $31 billion, $31 billion in tourism alone in 2025. This MAGA Republican today, still on October 10th, who is a travel agent apparently, is still going hard for Trump. Even though farmers are begging, absolutely begging for help, and they have sold $0 in soybeans because Trump ruined our trade with China. Did you know Canadians spend $20 billion a year coming to the United States of America? But wait, that $20 billion creates 140,000 jobs. But this travel agent, this MAGA travel agent on October 10th, despite the fact that the Republicans control the House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, blames the Democrat.
Listen, I gotta be real with y'all. This is one of those situations where the math is mathing, and MAGA bros still can't add. She's laying out the numbers, $20 billion from Canadians alone, creating 140,000 jobs, and these dudes are like, nah, blame the Democrats, bro. Your team controls the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court. That's like owning the whole restaurant and blaming the dishwasher when the food is terrible. This is what happens when your entire political identity is built on never admitting you're wrong. You got a travel agent, someone whose livelihood depends on people wanting to visit America, still riding for the guy who's making nobody want to visit America. That's like being a firefighter who votes for the arsonist and then wonders why business is booming, but in the worst way possible. At some point, you got to ask yourself, are you loyal to your country or are you loyal to a guy who literally said smart people don't like him?
Quote, smart people don't like me, end quote. Donald J. Trump. Catastrophic loss to tourism in Florida just from Canadians.
A lot of them will not come because of Trump and what was going on with Canada. They just don't want to come and spend their money here. The cost of living here has changed a lot. Everything went up.
It's no secret Canadian snowbirds haven't been flocking to South Florida lately. President Trump's immigration rules and tariffs have caused controversy in Canada.
The greater Fort Lauderdale is expecting up to 150,000 fewer visitors from Canada. You know, they make up one of the largest groups of international visitors to South Florida. According to Visit Lauderdale, Canadian visitors...
Trump has cost South Florida $90 million and climbing just from...
$90 million gone from South Florida, just from Canadians staying home, and that's one state and one country. Now multiply that by every tourist destination in America and every country that's pulling back. The snowbirds aren't coming south anymore, y'all. Those families who booked the same room the same week. Every single year for decades just stopped. That's not a political statement. That's a relationship ending. When your most loyal customers ghost you, that's not a boycott, that's a breakup. And here's what MAGA bros don't get. Breakups don't just fix themselves with a tweet or a rally. Once people find a new vacation spot, once they discover they can go to Portugal or Mexico or literally anywhere else for less money and more respect, they're not coming back. Customer loyalty takes years to build and one bad president to destroy. That's not politics. That's just business 101.
Canadians, just from Canadians. But wait, it gets worse. Did you know the entire world is boycotting the United States of America in tourism? Did you know that we are right now on track to lose $31 billion in tourism alone just in 2025? And that is an estimate. And yes, it has grown. Trump is destroying the USA. Do you agree? Have you canceled your trips to the USA? Drop your comments below.
You wouldn't have gone on holiday to Nazi Germany, would you? You wouldn't have gone and spent your hard-earned money in a state that was actively committing a genocide, would you? You wouldn't have knowingly gone and spent your money and therefore supported an economy of a state that was knowingly committing human rights monstrosities, would you? So why the fuck are we still going to America on vacation? How many countries has the US bombed in the last 12 months? Yemen, Somalia, Iran, Iraq, Syria. They've obviously massively funded the genocide in Palestine. They've kidnapped the Venezuelan president. Oh, they're kidnapping their own people on the streets and shooting people in the face if they dare to try and stop them.
Now she's comparing America to places people historically refuse to visit, and I know that stings, but here's what matters. It doesn't matter if you think the comparison is fair. What matters is the rest of the world thinks it's fair enough to book flights to Paris instead. You can argue about whether it's accurate all day long, but while you're arguing, the money is leaving. Perception is reality when it comes to where people spend their vacation dollars. This is true in business, this is true in relationships, and it's true for entire countries. If everybody in your life is telling you there's a problem, maybe the problem isn't everybody else. That's not a political take, that's just emotional intelligence. 101. And right now, America is scoring a 0 on that test.
You want to go there? You want to choose to go there? I can only assume that if you've managed to get a visa to go to the United States of embarrassment, you likely have the opportunity to go to many other places. Explain it to me like I'm 5. There's one thing. It's difficult to avoid supporting America in some sense because so much is owned by them. So many companies are owned by them. And I'm trying not to be too judgmental, but if you're actively choosing to get on a plane, pay your visa fees, and go spend money in that hellhole, can you explain it to me? Because I don't understand. The whole country music hype that was going on in 2025, like, you could call me a tin foil hat, whatever. I believe that was propaganda. I think that was a deliberate campaign to make America cool again, to distract us from the disgusting things that they keep doing. And I fear that a lot of us fell for it. A lot of us ate it up. America is fascist. And if you are choosing to go there for a jolly, you are supporting fascism.
Just in case no one's told you today, it is literally now or never, by the way. The United Kingdom have now officially warned their citizens, have warned us to not travel to the United States, and if we do, to be prepared of the heightened risk posed by the border and the new Trump administration. Historically, this has never been done by the United Kingdom and the United States, besides literally during 9/11 and the previous world wars. This is, of course,
the United Kingdom issuing a travel warning about America. She said that hasn't happened since 9/11 and the world wars. Think about that for a second. Your closest ally, your ride or die, since literally forever, is telling their people, hey, maybe sit this one out. That's not some random country being petty. That's your best friend saying I love you, but your house isn't safe right now. And the phone confiscation at the border is genuinely dystopian. Checking tourists' phones for political opinions like some kind of loyalty screening. A country that's actually strong doesn't need to intimidate visitors to feel powerful. That's not security, that's insecurity with a badge.
After British, German, and other European tourists have also been detained for days, weeks at a time at the border. This is, of course, weeks after Trump has basically appeased Putin and has agreed to be a bystander to the invasion of Ukraine and practically any other European country that Putin has his eyes set on. I absolutely hate saying this as your friend from across the pond, but there's going to be a point where we are not going to have any international influence to help you guys because Trump is literally making that quite literally impossible. He's isolating America. How does nobody see that? To the extent that they will confiscate your phone at the border, and if you have anything that is negative towards Trump, they will literally ban you from the USA. So if you're an American watching, you really have to have the fight in your belly right now because it is truly now or never. I literally cannot say that any louder.
Overnight, I've received quite a few sneers and sniggers about my decision to boycott things made in the USA. Mainly, it seems, from Americans themselves, as this person has also noted. When you say those words, you will make no difference. You say them to an Australian. And from gold miners' rebellions in Ballarat to futile fights on literal battlefields abroad, Australian history is endowed with noble defeats in futile battles. We almost take pride in their futility because it's in those moments that we demonstrate most clearly to our mates. In this case, Canada, Mexico, Europe, most of the rest of the non-USA world. However grim things look, whatever the overwhelming odds you face, you will not face them alone.
This man just said when a Canadian looks over their shoulder for the last person standing by their side, that person will be an Australian. And honestly, that line hit me in the chest because that is what real solidarity looks like. He's not doing this because it's convenient or because he'll win. He said Australians take pride in noble defeats and futile battles because it's about showing up. Meanwhile, America is burning every international friendship it has. Like those relationships are disposable. Here's what people don't understand about goodwill. It takes decades to build and months to destroy. The alliances being formed right now between Canada and Europe and Australia. Those are going to outlast this administration. And when the dust settles, the world is going to remember who stood where.
When a Canadian looks over their shoulder, searching for the last person standing by their side, that person will be an Australian. And on a personal note, I have this standard. I will not be complicit in the tyranny of the USA. And this standard that lives in my mind now lives in the real world through my actions. Literally, I will not buy into the tyranny of the USA. And this feels right. Just as it feels right for others, evidently, too. Because when this is over one way or another, I want my name to have been recorded in my memory, if nowhere else, in the column of the names of the people who said I will not be complicit, and not among the names of those who sneered or sniggered, or worse, who cheered the tyrant on.
Foreign tourists are still coming into the United States. In spite of Donald Trump, in spite of the enhanced border security, in spite of the horror stories we have heard from foreign tourists being detained and then deported back to their countries because they didn't book a hotel for their entire stay, people are still coming into the United States. However, it is far less than what we have seen since COVID, when travel returned to normal. And in fact, it is now being predicted that this year we could see a 10% reduction in the number of foreign tourists coming into the United States. And you may not think that's a big deal, right? Okay, 10%, whoa, big whoop. What is that going to do? Well, according to economists and financial analysts and the labor market, it's going to cost us 250,000 jobs, and it's going to erase $23 billion from our GDP. We have already seen this year a massive reduction in the number of people from foreign countries willing to come into the United States. And yes, it is all because of Donald Trump.
250,000 jobs and $23 billion in GDP wiped out from just a 10% drop in tourists. He broke down the 3 reasons perfectly. Some are angry about trade wars, some are scared of what's happening, and some just don't want to get thrown in a detention center for having the wrong hotel booking. Imagine explaining to your grandmother from Liverpool that she might get locked up at JFK because her Airbnb reservation looks suspicious. That's not border security, that's insanity. The land of the free is out here detaining British tourists, and somehow people are defending it.
Trump. Some of them do not want to come in because they're unhappy about his trade war. Some of them don't want to come in because they're terrified of what the United States has become. And a lot of them don't want to come in, of course, because of this so-called enhanced border security that is sending well-meaning tourists to federal detention centers. You can't really blame them for that, right? Like people not wanting to come in because there's a chance ICE could just lock you away for a week with no explanation. I wouldn't do that. So yeah, we have this massive reduction that is going to cost us tens of billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of jobs. One of the things that Republicans promised us when they took over the House, the Senate, the White House, everything, they're like, no more government losing money. We're going to have a prosperous government. We're going to make the cuts we need to. We're going to balance the budget, and the government is going to be wealthy. So wealthy that Donald Trump said, we're going to start a sovereign wealth fund, right? We're going to have so much money, we're going to have to put it in a savings account for the first time ever. Oh boy, just money coming out the wazoo. Well, it turns out, according to reports this week, Donald Trump has already spent $155 billion more than Biden had at this point in his presidency. Elon Musk readjusted his figures to say we're not going to be able to save $2 trillion. We might save $150 billion, which has already been offset by the fact that Trump increased spending by $155 billion. So we're still losing money. But according to the financial analysts at Goldman Sachs, the U.S. economy is about to lose a lot more money than that. In fact, we've already been losing money since Donald Trump came into office, they say, but it's about to get so much worse. Because foreign tourism into the United States is plummeting. It's plummeting so badly that these analysts at Goldman Sachs are now predicting that the U.S. economy is going to lose $90 billion.
$90 billion. Goldman Sachs isn't some random blogger, y'all. These are the people who actually understand money, saying the tourism collapse alone is going to cost $90 billion this year. And remember, the promise was savings, efficiency, a sovereign wealth fund. So much money we'd need a savings account for the government. Instead, spending went up by $155 billion. The promised savings got slashed from $2 trillion to $150 billion, which doesn't even cover the overspending. So you're spending more and earning less in any household, in any business, in any country. That's called going broke. This isn't complicated math. This is addition and subtraction, and right now the subtraction is winning by a landslide. But sure, keep telling everybody the economy is booming while Goldman Sachs is literally sounding the alarm.
Dollars this year alone because foreigners don't want to come over here anymore for vacation.
Stay home. Go to other places. Paris is beautiful.
At this Trump protest, some New Yorkers were telling me tourists should be boycotting the US.
We need all the help we can get in dismantling this fascist regime that has taken over the country.
I say Trump protest because if you look around, things are really starting to merge together. Here there are signs about ICE, there are signs about Venezuela, there's references to the Epstein files. Thousands of people are out here closing down streets in New York, and while the focus is on the immigration enforcement agents, the criticism is directed at the Trump administration in general.
I'm saying hands off to everything. They are attacking every single tenet of our society.
Decisions seem to be made last minute by a tweet.
We're breaking our own constitution. We're breaking international law. This government is out of control.
Following the death of Renee Good, protests have continued to pop up across the country, but there has been no indication of ICE efforts slowing. And despite the crowds here, there are many Americans who disagree, who support the Trump administration and the immigration crackdown being carried out. I came across two people out here opposing this protest.
If you don't like President Trump, if you don't like law and order in America, get out.
There's a lot of foreigners that are not supposed to be here, that were not vetted. He's been the best leaders, in decades.
American citizens should come first. ICE is doing a great job. A great job.
If you don't like it, get out. And ICE is doing a great job. That's the whole argument. No numbers, no data, no counter to the billions vanishing, just vibes. Meanwhile, a congressional candidate is right there citing a 61% tourism drop, empty hotels, shuttered restaurants, and millions of jobs gone. One side has statistics, the other side has slogans, and somehow the slogan side thinks they're winning. Here's a life lesson for everybody watching. When someone responds to data with emotion that tells you everything about how solid their position is, if your best defense is telling people to leave the country, you've already lost the argument, you just don't know it yet.
Well, folks, here's the truth. Donald Trump's policies didn't just close our borders, they wrecked our economy. Tourism to the United States is down 61%. That means empty hotels, shuttered restaurants, and millions of jobs lost in cities like Las Vegas, New York, Miami, and right here at home. Why? Because Trump made America unwelcoming. His trade wars, his anti-immigration rhetoric, his fear-based policies drove tourists and businesses away. While Europe and Asia recovered, we fell behind. I'm running for Congress to change that, to open our doors, rebuild our reputation, and bring jobs back to the communities that depend on tourism. We're going to replace fear with opportunity and isolation with leadership. America should be a place the world wants to visit, not avoid. And under Democratic leadership, it will be again. Let's bring the world and their dollars back to America. Let's get to work. My name is Doug Hunan. I'm a Democrat congressional candidate in California's 3rd District. Please share this video, follow me, and donate to my congressional campaign. Link is down below and also in my profile. Thank you so much for your support.
This is what he said last night.
One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that, now this was Trudeau, the people that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau, his people were nasty.
President Trump last night. Now, earlier this month, before stepping down, Trudeau said this at a press conference.
Canadians are hurt. Canadians are angry. We're going to choose to not go on vacation in Florida or Old Orchard Beach or wherever.
Very traditional people, families that take the same room, the same dates every year.
Not this year. Sterling says most of his Canadian customers have canceled, fed up with President Donald Trump's antagonistic rhetoric toward Canada. There's the threat of tariffs, too, and lately Trump has suggested redrawing the border between the two countries.
It's affecting at least 90% of my business.
Are you saying you've had 90% of your business canceled this year?
Easily.
Point of view in?
During our visit, yet another Canadian called to cancel.
Listen, monsieur, you don't need to explain anything.
90% of this man's bookings gone, and he doesn't even need Canadians to explain why they're canceling anymore. Because he already knows that moment with the registration cards destroyed me. Holding up last year's Canadian bookings versus this year, and it's basically a blank page. This isn't a number on a spreadsheet. This is a real human watching his life's work evaporate one phone call at a time. And the people who talk the loudest about supporting small business owners will never see this clip. Personal responsibility was supposed to be the whole brand, but apparently that only applies when other people need to own their mistakes. When the consequences come home, suddenly it's always somebody else's fault.
This is every registration card from last year. This is the Canadian. That's my American. This just went away.
That's all you got now.
So the whole world said no thanks, and the receipts are brutal. $31 billion in lost tourism, 250,000 jobs at risk, allied nations issuing travel warnings for the first time since actual world wars, and small business owners watching decades of loyal customers vanish overnight. The money is leaving, the allies are leaving, and the only people who can't see it are the ones who caused it. Here's my question for the comments. When the entire world tells you you're the problem, at what point do you actually listen? Drop your thoughts below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.